I came across this story, and I was struck by how the weight of grief can make a person vulnerable in ways we don't often talk about. Let me share it with you, because this is the kind of narrative that deserves to be heard. This story begins in Scandinavia, where a mother and father are navigating the darkest chapter any parent can face. 1.5 years earlier, they lost their toddler to cancer, the kind of loss that reshapes everything. How you move through the world, how you understand time, how you carry the weight of love that has nowhere left to go. They gave their daughter a beautiful grave, and visiting it daily became part of their healing. A ritual, a way to stay connected to the child they could no longer hold. But then something shifted. They started finding notes, not handwritten, printed from a computer, nasty notes, notes that targeted the father specifically, notes that expressed hope that the child the mother was now carrying would also die. Notice how the violation layers here. This isn't just vandalism. This is someone weaponizing grief itself. The angel on the gravestone had its wings broken, the flowers were destroyed, and the notes kept coming. The father writes that he has no known enemies, neither does his wife, but someone knows where their daughter is buried. Someone knows when they visit. Someone is watching. And then the father notices a pattern. He would post on Facebook something simple, something tender. I visited the grave today and planted beautiful flowers. And the next day, a note would appear. This is where the story takes a turn, because the father begins to suspect that whoever is doing this might not be a stranger. The timing feels too precise, the knowledge too specific. So he does what many of us would do when trying to make sense of the senseless. He makes a list. L, a former coworker who resented him for getting promoted, claiming it was because he had a child on the way. But that was years ago. B, an ex-girlfriend. They dated before he met his wife. She wanted a child-free life, he loved children. They parted amicably. She moved to another town. He saw no crazy in her, his words. But she's on the list. E, his wife's ex-boyfriend. She left him for the father. E is now married, so presumably he's moved on. But grief and rage don't always follow logic. V, a Polish contractor they'd hired to install a kitchen. Language barriers caused problems. The job went poorly. The father had to let him go. V was angry, but angry enough for this. And then there's C. C lived next door before they moved. She had a dog so sick it cried when it tried to walk. Skin and bones, misery on 4 legs. Sometimes it would fall and couldn't get back up. The wife reported it. The dog disappeared. C was described as strange, not mean or nasty, just odd. And finally, Nurse A, a nurse who cared for their daughter at the hospital. The parents discovered she wasn't administering pain medication on time. She waited too long. Their child, already suffering, was denied relief. They made a complaint. They didn't shout. They weren't rude. They just wanted the best care for their daughter. The father mentions that when their child wanted to visit a kennel and play with puppies, they made it happen. But the post cuts off there, mid-sentence, as if the story itself couldn't finish. And that's the haunting part, isn't it? The unfinished nature of it all. The unresolved grief. The unknown tormentor. The fear that won't let them mourn in peace. This is the moment where we understand what this story is really about. It's not just about finding out who's leaving the notes. It's about the cruelty of being denied the right to grieve safely. The father wants to set up a camera, but Scandinavia has strict surveillance laws. He's trapped between needing answers and respecting legal boundaries. He's furious. His pregnant wife is terrified. They can't visit their daughter's grave without fear. The narrative structure here reveals something important. Notice how the father presents the suspects, not with certainty, but with doubt. He's grasping, searching for anyone who might fit, because the alternative, that someone hates him enough to do this, and he has no idea why, is unbearable. What unfolds next in stories like this is rarely clean resolution. These aren't mysteries with neat endings. They're fractures in the fabric of trust. They're questions that linger. Who does something like this? Who targets grieving parents? Who weaponizes a toddler's grave? The answer is someone who understands exactly where the pain lies. Someone who knows that the deepest wounds are the ones we can't protect. And that's what makes this story so unsettling. It's not the mystery itself, it's the vulnerability it exposes. The father and mother are trying to hold their daughter's memory gently, and someone is using that tenderness as a target. Stories like this remind us why we tell them in the first place, because they honor the complexity of being human, even when that complexity includes cruelty we can't fully explain, even when it includes grief that refuses to stay quiet, even when it includes parents who just want to visit their child's grave without fearing what they'll find. If you've stayed with me through this, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced something that felt like a violation of your grief? How did you find your way through? Drop a comment below. And if this story moved you, please share it, because sometimes the act of witnessing is the most powerful thing we can do. Subscribe if you want more stories that matter. I'll be back soon with another narrative that deserves to be heard. Until then, take care of each other. Title suggestions primary. Someone is leaving threatening notes at my dead child's grave, and I don't know who alt one. We lost our toddler to cancer. Now someone is terrorizing us at her grave alt 2. Grieving parents stalked by anonymous tormentor at daughter's grave alt 3, who would threaten a pregnant mother at her dead child's gravestone.